Juggling life, whether it's through responsibilities or that invisible task load, is a lot. Now, I am in no way saying that you don't enjoy it, and yet it is hard. Hi, I'm Denise with the Working Moms Redefined podcast, and I am excited to have Lisa Woodruff on, who is the founder of Organize 365. She is going to talk with us today about the real reason why high capacity women feel overwhelmed and maybe why organization is about so much more than checklists, much like the one that I'm holding up to the screen if you're watching us on YouTube, or doing more, or pretty containers in our house. I'm excited for this. Lisa is a mom herself and a grandma from Ohio. Lisa, thanks for joining us today.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me on. I'm so excited for this conversation.
I can't wait. And at the end of this, what are you hoping that women and men that are listening feel or understand differently?
Yeah, I think the big takeaway is that we are juggling a lot. And all of the roles and responsibilities that we have are important, and we don't have enough systems to take care of those. And if we could just invest in some simple systems, then we're still going to be doing a lot, but at least we'll have some SOPs at home like we have at work.
Straight off the top, give me one of your favorite SOPs that you have implemented in your life that has made such a difference.
Yeah, so the one that has saved me since the time my kids were 6 months and 2 years old is the Sunday basket. I created it out of desperation one Sunday night. Everybody went to bed. I took the stack of kitchen counter papers that were like 12 inches high. I spread them out on the floor, divided them into 40 different actionable piles. Now, remember, this is 2002. So we didn't have, I mean, I had a computer, but we weren't really using them at that point. But still today, it's almost worse today because our paper pile is lower, but the invisible work of what we're mentally holding is even more. And so it's hard to even quantify and organize all the tasks you have to do when they're still in your head. So now I teach people to just write all those on index cards and start to sort those as well. You all have a Sunday basket system. Like, I'm not a rocket scientist over there. Like, everybody has some kind of way that you're paying the bills and making sure all of your to-dos get done. The problem I see is that we have all at some point hit our breaking point and figured out how to organize our daily to-dos, and every single system we use is different. And then we forget how we made the system, so we don't use the system. And so at home, we just don't have systems. We don't have good systems. So after I started Organize 365, I kept trying all these other things. And everybody's like, explain the Sunday basket, explain the Sunday basket, explain the Sunday basket. I was like, okay, I'll manufacture the Sunday basket. So that's what we do. It's like a weekly planning system and ongoing tickler file and actionable to-dos and all those projects that you have running through your household.
So cool. Can't wait to learn more. How fun. In the work that you get to do, you talk
Mhm.
about that feeling that women feel like they are sinking in life.
Yeah.
What does that actually look like for the women that you work with?
So sometimes it looks like they have it all together. And for most of the people listening, I bet it looks like you have it all together. And that's almost more frustrating because you're like, I don't know when I'm going to drop the ball that's the most important, but I know there's a ball out there I don't know about. I know there's a straw that's going to break my back, but it looks like we've got everything going on. Like, we're actually showing up at the soccer practice with the kids and we're showing up for the work meeting. And like, it looks to the outside world that we have everything going on. But inside, we feel like we don't really know if we've prioritized the right things. We don't really have a strategic plan at home. We're just doing the next best thing that we can do. And we've lost sight of the long horizon of why we're doing all of this.
What's the next great step?
Yeah. You want me to answer, huh? I like how we had that nice long pause because I think that we get so busy doing and literally we can't stop because if you stop doing, then you're even more behind. Like, we're in this catch 22. We can't stop doing because we're going to get farther behind, but yet we know that we're not necessarily doing what we should be doing. That is the most important. So, unfortunately, you're going to have to go into even rougher waters for like 3 to 10 days
Okay.
where you're like, okay, I'm going to cancel the play date. I'm going to not go out for bunko or mahjong or whatever you do. I'm going to say no to my parents coming in town this weekend. And I am going to stop everything. I'm going to write everything down. I'm going to figure out what are all the responsibilities I have. I'm going to write myself a job description. I'm going to figure out which are the things that are most important. Hey, at work, we can't do 24 different projects at a time. We can only do 3 to 5. And even then, if you do 5, likely you won't get them done in a quarter. But at home, we just keep adding, 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 adding. And we need to really sit down and go, you know what? This is the season we're not going to do any sports with kids. You know what? This summer, we're only going to take one vacation and we're not doing anything else. And start to make some of those decisions so that you can start to be proactive at home and at work instead of reactive.
Mm. What a good
Mm.
thought process as we head into close to be summertime, believe it or not.
I know. I know. Hope
Boundaries.
you got them in camps.
Seriously,
I
though.
got my grandkid in camps. I'm like, sign him up.
Let's
My
do
daughter's
this.
like, I don't know if I want to get up and take him to kids. I'm like, I'm paying for camp and you're not sure you want to get up and take him. Do you know what I would have done to have somebody pay for camp for you when you were a kid? Like, get out of bed and take the kid to camp. Like, save yourself.
That's hilarious. But to that point, right? Like so many women feel like they are doing all of the right things, but still feel behind. There's a dynamic there.
Mhm.
Your daughter feeling that. I know I do from time to time. Why does that happen?
Well, because we are running our household like we are a kid. Like, so we left our child at home. We moved into our adult house and we're like, yay, nobody could tell us what to do anymore. Ha ha, I won. And yet there are all these things that have to be done. And you're like, okay, fine, I'll just get the laundry day. Okay, I'll just get the cleaning done. Like, we're trying to get our little to-do list done so we can go out and play on Saturday afternoon. Okay, well, that works for a period of time. But especially as you get to the end of your 30s and into your 40s, it just completely breaks because the income you need to run your household in your 40s is more than you need in your 20s and 30s. So most of us go back to work and or at least have a side hustle. And that adds an additional complexity because what we fail to realize is we are running a business already. So 68% of US GDP is household spending. So every single household is a small business and an economic entity. And a lot of women, like myself included, when I was a full-time stay-at-home mom, which I loved, assumed that my hours were worth no money because I wasn't working. So there wasn't a dollar per hour. And I want to really have you think differently about this. When you go to a job and work for someone else and they pay you for your time, that is a return on your investment. In your household, that income comes into your household, however many different ways you make money. All that money comes into your household, and then you report the size of the business entity that you are running on your tax return. So if it's $50,000, you're running a $50,000 business. It's $150,000, you're running a six-figure business. And I want you to really internalize that. You are running a business in your household, but you're running it without any systems, no priorities, and from a to-do list. It would be like running your job from just going to meetings and doing email. Like, it would just not work at all. They'd be like, "Well, I feel like I'm never done, but I'm not getting anywhere." Exactly. Exactly. So you need to do this weekly planning in your house. And then what we do in our company is every 4 months, we do quarterly planning. So we're getting ready on May 1st. We'll do a live event where you literally look at the whole summer and you make these global decisions about what you want, how you want your business to run, how, your household to run, what you are and are not going to do. And then you have a plan and then you run the plan, just like you would in business, because you are a business.
How cool. Can absolutely tell you, I've never looked at it like that. And yet,
Hmm.
it honestly, it feels like sometimes I feel as if I show up my A game all of the time in business. Like I
Yeah.
love the way that I show up in my businesses. And
Yeah.
yet sometimes, and I'm going to guess now it's because I don't have the systems in place, I
Yeah.
feel as if I'm not showing up as my best self. I'm irritated, I'm frustrated, I'm overwhelmed at home.
Right.
That is not fun. And I'm excited to see what it looks like to implement. And dare I say, is this potentially me operating from a place of reactive living? And if
Yes.
so, why and how do I get out of it?
Yes. So, and I know, like for myself, when I started my company, the year I turned 40, it wasn't until, let's see, I guess I was almost 10 years in business when COVID happened. And so for 2020, we're all locked down at home and now the whole family's back. And my husband's working at home. He's never worked at home before. And then he went on a vacation early 2021 and his company made him shelter in place for 2 weeks when he got back. And I was like, man, I really, I gotta, we work differently. I wanted to and at that point, my company was pretty big. I had a warehouse, I had products, I had employees. I actually had an office. The office I'm in right now, I had this office beautifully decorated. And I'm sitting there frustrated that my husband is working from home. And I was like, Lisa, You have an office. You have employees. Like, the reason you're working from home is to let the dog out in the middle of the day. He can let the dog out in the middle of the day. So I went to the office and I started working. I had such a stay-at-home mom mindset that even though I was now a corporate CEO of my own corporation, I was stay-at-home mom first. And I think it is so hard for us women, or I won't say it's hard. I would say once you recognize as a woman that you're running two distinct entities, you will start to prioritize your time differently. You will say yes and no to different things. Whether you're a W-2 employee or you're an entrepreneur, manager, leader, salesperson, whatever, you're working for pay. You're also running the economic entity of the household. And here's where it gets even more complicated in your 30s, 40s, and 50s. Somewhere along the line, you're going to have to step in for your parents and grandparents. You know, you got to be power of attorney, power of healthcare. I had to settle my dad's estate with my sister. Now you're running a third household. You're running a third economic entity, a third tax return. Here's the thing. If there's a P&L or a tax return attached to it, it's a third job, okay? I want you to think whether you're being paid or not, there's money. Money is involved. It's a third job. Here's the problem when you have to step in and be power of attorney or settle someone's estate. They cobble together their systems too, and they don't have them well documented. And a lot of times they can't even tell you what they did. I never got into my dad's computer. And when I got into his file cabinet, he had car catalogs and golf scores. That didn't help me. So I had to literally cobble together his entire life in order to go find everything, turn everything off, and settle the estate. And it wasn't running on a similar system. So this Sunday basket, when you have the Sunday basket running, like you have a good email and meeting sequence at work, then when you need to step in for your family members, you just create a Sunday basket for them. And it's the same system.
Okay, that's cool. Do you talk about the Sunday basket in greater detail in your book?
There is a chapter on it in the book. Yes, I talk about it all the time.
Cool. And tell me about your book. It is called Escaping.
Quicksand, the 10 steps to overcome the overwhelm of modern home life. This is my sixth book. I set out to write a book on how to organize your house. And then I realized that's impossible. You can't write a book on how to organize your house. It's like, I mean, my course is like hundreds of videos. Like, there's no way to put it into a book. But I realized I'm 54 now. The book I needed to write was how did I mentally change from being reactive and overwhelmed to productive and purposeful and profitable?
Mm.
Yes, I got organized. Yes, I started the business, all those visible things you could see. But what internally shifted in me? And I came up with 10 things that I changed in the way I thought about them. And like most of them don't even have anything to do with my family or my kids. They were personal mindset shifts I needed to make in order to become a more productive and positive person. How do women become productive at home and at work? Like, it just kind of happens. And I really made myself think about how did I do that?
That's so cool. I can't wait to read through that. And we'll be sure to link the ability for you to be able to purchase that book in the show notes as well. You
Thank
talk
you.
about that invisible workload
Hmm.
that so many of us are like, yep, we know that mental
Yep.
load that so
Yep.
many of us,
Yep.
and we're quietly carrying. You've done research around this.
Hmm.
What did you discover?
Here's how we use our executive function. I just want to give you like a kindergarten version of how our brain works. Okay. So I was a kindergarten teacher and I supported kids who had ADHD in school. So I knew as a math teacher, a kindergarten teacher, how do you provide supports in school to executive function to kids who have ADHD? Then my kids had ADHD. Then I organized people's homes for people who had ADHD. Now I've been diagnosed with ADHD. Don't worry about that. Okay. Our executive function is like 8 different things. It does a whole bunch of different things. But the main thing, the number one thing that they found our executive function does is it gets stuff done. Like, it's called working memory. So we're having this conversation. I'm talking, you're thinking about what I'm saying, you're thinking about what you're going to say back. We're using our working memory. Here's a great example of how our working memory and our interruptive perspective memory are in a task switching state. This is my dissertation. You're buying something on your phone and then you need the passcode. So you have to go over into your email, you get the passcode, you're trying to memorize the passcode, you're coming back over to finish buying the thing, and a text message goes off. And it's the kids' school. Well, are you going to finish buying the thing and then go see the text message? No, of course. So now you're checking out the kids' school. Now that prospective memory task, that interruption, something that's going to happen in the future, is now your working memory task. And your working memory task of buying whatever you're buying online, probably from Instagram if you're me, becomes the perspective memory task. You have to remember to go back and do it. And this is the mental load. The constantness of we are doing something and we get interrupted and or we voluntarily remember that we have to do something in the future. And we're just like a ping pong ball in a machine, back and forth. Da, 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 da. Here's the problem. There are 7 other executive functions. But if you can't get out of this ping pong game, you can't utilize any of them. And the last little executive function, standing in the back of the line, flipping her hair, is planning. Planning is an executive function. You cannot plan if you're using your working memory. And so many of us stay in this busy state of like, check, and you're always in your to-do list and that you can't get to that calm planning state. The Sunday basket gives you that planning state. And there are all these other executive functions in there that you use as well. Organizing is literally an executive function. So these things that we're talking about, like getting your house organized, being planned, prioritizing, these are all executive functions. That's why they're so important. This is literally how your brain figures out what it's going to do every day and how it's going to get it done.
Why do you think that's overlooked so much by women carrying it, myself included?
I think, okay, can I get controversial?
Please.
Okay. So I got my own PhD. I paid for it with the profit from my company. And now I'm going to pay to do my own research and then hopefully I'll get it published. So I'm not in academia. But in academia, in order to do research, you have to do it under a theory. So I'm working under the cognitive load theory, which is the theory of how children learn in schools. However, in the housework literature, we are working under the doing gender theory. And the doing gender theory, which emerged in the 80s, says that women do more work than men. This is undisputed. There's nothing controversial about this. Women are doing way more than men. Now, men are doing more now than they ever have done, and women are doing less than they've ever done. So the gap is closing, but it's still, like a cavern. It's huge. So there is this gap. And the population that's studied in academia is married couples with children under the age of 18, which in the 80s was 40% of the US population, but today is only 17.9% of the population. So when we study this invisible cognitive load in academia, which they are studying, and women have the overwhelming share, and they get anxious and stressed from it because they have an emotional response to the invisible load, which is true. We are only studying it in couples with children. Alison Damager is one of the main researchers in this field, and she always studied couples with children. And she has now had her first child, and she said, I knew it. I knew this was the population that needed this research the most. And I agree with her. However, what about the other 80%? Like, what about my widowed mother-in-law who had to settle her husband's estate? What about my mother who lives on her own, who is trying to, figure out how to do her taxes? What about my sister who never married? Like, do these people not count? Do they not have invisible load? Do they not need to prioritize? Do they not have housework? Of course they do. So we're leaving 80% of the population out of studies right now because we're under the doing gender theory, which says women do more. And so we must come up with solutions about how men could do more at home, which I don't know. Have you ever tried to get anybody other than yourself to do anything, or even yourself? It's impossible. So how do you even solve that problem? I don't even think you can solve that problem. So I'm like, whatever. I'm not getting in a he said, she said conversation. I'm a business owner. I'm a productive person. I want to solve the problem. I'm going to look to myself to solve the problem. How do I solve the problem? How I solve the problem is I get all of my working memory and perspective memory tasks out of my head and into the Sunday basket. I make a plan for the week. I run my plan. And I stay in planning and productivity. And then I go, yeah, I'm not going to be able to do all of this because I don't have that much capacity. And then it goes better for me because I have systems. And these systems support people of all ages and all family dynamics and makes the invisible load visible so that we can organize it. But I'm going to go one step further. So I got my PhD because when we have kids under the age of 18, especially here in Cincinnati, Ohio, there are amazing research studies being done on kids who have ADHD and non-pharmaceutical interventions that we know work in schools. When you get to adulthood, there are none. There are zero interventions for adults with ADHD. I've talked to the researchers who do these. I said, let's do these with adults. And they're like, no, and you can't have my research money. And I was like, fine, I'll go get my own PhD and I'll pay for my own research. So see you later. So that's what I'm doing. Like, is the Sunday basket, which I believe it is, a solution, a non-pharmaceutical solution for externalizing your executive function so you can have more cognitive capacity? And I believe it is. And within a couple of years, I'll do the research and we'll see, is that supported or not in science?
That is so cool. Holy cow. Congratulations. Good luck. I can't
Thank
wait.
you. Thank you.
If since you said you talk about it one chapter in your book about
Mhm.
Sunday basket, where could people
Mhm.
go to get a more detailed outline of that?
Yeah, if you just go to organize365.com, there's the Sunday basket tab and it talks to you about the Sunday basket. And then I have a podcast, it's 11 years old, or just type Sunday basket in YouTube, or other people have talked about it as a system for running the house, or in your podcast player, you'll see all kinds of podcasts about it.
I love it. So cool. Okay. So, you also talk about this concept of becoming a woman of excellence.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Okay. So I told you I was recently diagnosed with ADHD, which I'm sure a lot of people are like, no kidding. How did it take them that long to realize that? Like, okay. It was actually hard to get the diagnosis. Anyway, growing up, I could not get straight A's. I couldn't even get ABs. Yeah, I always had this floating C on my report card. Drove my mother nuts. Like, she's a straight A student. She's like, how can it be in science one time and then it's in history the next semester? I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. They did diagnose me with dyslexia, but I knew that I wasn't like, I couldn't do that. I couldn't be perfect. I couldn't get the A. I couldn't get the even ABs. So I knew I wasn't a perfectionist, but I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom so badly. And I got an early childhood education degree. And like, this is my Super Bowl stay-at-home mom, little kids. Like, I am all in. This is how I could be as perfect as possible. So I'd like paint a room. My husband would come home. I'd be like, look, I painted this whole room. And he'd go, you missed a spot. And I'm like, and I would just like crush. I would just be crumbled as in like, oh my gosh, I didn't do it perfectly. And I just kept having all these instances where I gave really good effort, but I wasn't perfect. And I was judged on the non-perfection. It's just a throwaway comment from my husband. He's a very nice man. Don't worry about it. But I mean, you're sitting at the bus stop with moms and, just this offhanded comment makes you realize that you're not meeting their expectations or you're not doing a good enough job according to them. They may not even realize that they're saying it. So for a period of time, I was like, well, just can't be perfect. Like, not my problem. So I kind of like decided that I wasn't going to try because I couldn't meet the expectations. So I was going to give up trying. And I didn't really like that. I did that for a couple of years. I didn't really like the way that felt. Like that I was just like downgrading myself around everyone else because I wasn't perfect and apparently they could be perfect. And then finally I was like, you know what? Nobody is perfect. Like perfect doesn't even exist. I do give good effort. Like I have a lot of great ideas. They're out of the box, they're weird, they're crazy, but they're fun and they're different. And look, I employ people because of them. Like I'm where work comes from. I always walk around the office. I'm where work comes from.
Mhm.
So there are good things about what I do, but I'm definitely not detail oriented and I'm not perfect. And in my mid-40s, I was like, "You know what?" I did a podcast episode and I said, "You know what? I am a woman of excellence. Like, I try really hard. I do everything to the best of my ability. I work in my uniqueness. I bring unique things to the marketplace. I'm a woman of excellence. You are a woman of excellence too. No one can be perfect." And what happened in the subsequent years was I realized slowly, I stopped judging myself and everyone around me, and I started accepting grace and giving grace to everyone around me. And my husband said the other day, he said, "You know what? You never judge anyone." And I said, "No." He said, "You don't even judge yourself." I said, "No." He goes, "How did you do that?" And this is, going back and thinking, how did I do that? I replaced perfection with excellence.
Mm.
Excellent effort, not perfect outcome.
Excellent effort, not perfect outcome. I'm
Yeah.
writing that down. How good. How good.
So freeing.
And free, exactly. For those of us, myself included, who probably have strived or tried to live for some level of perfectionism over the years, what is the
Yeah.
realistic first step, if you will, to something healthier like excellence?
For me, like, because I still do it today, when I feel that people are judging me or providing a critique of what I'm doing, like I'm getting a PhD, so I'm getting a lot of critiques. I don't do it in this instance, but I'm saying like in regular life. When I feel like somebody says you missed this or you didn't do this or this isn't done, I just say, yeah, either, yeah, I'll get to it or, oh, okay, do you mind doing that for me? Like I'm rubber and you're glue, whatever you say bounces off me back to you. Like I don't take it in. Like I used to take it in like, oh, I'm terrible. I need to do this better. And I'm like, no, it's dishes. Like everybody eats it. Like it's not just me. Or even in business, like I just don't take myself very seriously. When I started the company, if the website went down, which happened often because we didn't have a good hosting company, if it went down, it's 11 o'clock at night. Like I would call my executive assistant and we'd be up until 1 a.m. trying to get this website up. You guys, there were 3 people on the website. No one cared. Now, we could be in the middle of a sale and, like, the payment processor, they'll be like, "A payment processor stopped working." And I'm like, "Okay, well, let me know when it's working." Like, I just don't what am I gonna do? Do you think I know how to I don't know how to do AI, and I for sure don't know how to do coding, so clearly this is out of my wheelhouse, whatever. It'll come back eventually. It's not earth-shattering if people can't make a purchase at Organized 365 today. Like, this is not an emergency. Yeah, it's bad, but, I mean, we're all gonna live. I think this is also age. I'm 54. So I'm just not as, like, wound up like I was in my 20s and 30s. I realize that it's all gonna be fine.
And yet, I love those of you who are a little bit more seasoned in life to be able to share that because I would
Yeah,
like to implement that sooner than had I
right.
not been exposed to it.
Exactly. And okay, so listen up, everybody, focus in. You're going to have so much time. You're not going to know what to do with it in your 50s, 60s, and 70s. You're like, no, I'm never going to have time again. Like in the end of my 30s, I was like, I'm never going to be able to ever do a jigsaw puzzle until I'm like 90 and retired. I do jigsaw puzzles every single night. I got a PhD in my 50s. That's 25 hours a week of work. And I still do jigsaw puzzles. And I ran a company. And I took care of my grandkids. Like, you are going to have so much time and capacity in the future. So capture all of your ideas because the time is coming. It may not be now, but it is coming. So just take the next step. I promise you it's coming.
I love it. And with that thought in mind, we need to stay organized,
Mhm.
capturing our thoughts or whatever that might look like to learn a new skill or something. But what do most people misunderstand about being organized, if you will?
Couple things. Number one, organization in the United States is sold to us as an aesthetic. So how it looks. Nothing in my house is labeled. Does that surprise you? My house is very organized. My husband will always say, "Can we hire an organizer for our house?" I'm like, "Stop it." Nothing is labeled. It's very functionally organized. I know where everything is. I'm no longer Google. People can find what they need without asking me because it's always in the same place. So the information is organized. That's what organization looks like. You're able to go out and go on a business meeting and not have the family fall apart behind you because they couldn't find something because they didn't know how to do it on their own. So to me, that's organized. The design aesthetic is a design aesthetic. Like, what do you want it to look like? So I see organization as a three-step cycle: decluttering, organizing, increasing productivity. So decluttering is getting rid of what you don't need. If it's the only tool in your tool chest, you get to the point where you actually don't need to declutter, but you don't know how to organize. So now you get rid of things that you actually need because you just want to have that feeling of being organized. So now you're decluttering the stuff you need.
Mm.
Organization is like school. It's analog. You do it on paper, like you do a brain dump on paper, and then you physically organize everything. And then you increase productivity either aesthetically or digitally. So maybe you want it all labeled. You want it all cute bins. Maybe you want to take your list and you want it to be a digital, repeatable list. I don't teach the digital stuff because there's so many options and they're always changing. But the actual act of becoming organized is always analog and it happens, tactily and kinesthetically.
So cool. An organization doesn't mean adding more structure or more rules all the time. It actually gives you the mental capacity to have a sense of freedom.
Yeah, and a lot of times, like when I used to organize homes in Cincinnati all the time, and now we just, do it through the courses. About every 10 years, your household functions completely differently. So if you move into a household with no kids, it functions one way. Then you have little kids, it functions another way. Now you have, middle school kids, it functions a different way. Now I've got grandkids living with us, it functions a different way. The more that you could say, gosh, I'm hitting a lot of friction, like just seems like I'm doing rework a lot. Like every time I go for something, it's not in the right spot. Yeah, it's because you probably still have baby bottles there, and what you need are water bottles for sports. You need to really change up the kitchen and the bedrooms and how you use this entire house every 5 to 10 years for the people who are living in the house. And then once you get all those rooms to match the phase of life you're in, it's really easy to keep it organized.
A couple things for me that were a big game changer is putting the water bottles in a drawer that they could access instead of me having to
Yes.
access. That was really nice. And then in our mudroom area, their bag and coat hooks, I, for aesthetics, put them up as to where normal would be. Well, they can't freaking reach that.
Yeah,
So
right.
I'm like,
Right.
dang. So then I got those command hook things.
Yep.
I'll be able to take them off down the road, but for now, they can still reach them. But gosh darn it, Hudson still, even though he can reach them, still just throws the coat. And I'm like, "Arr."
Yeah, yeah, they do. My daughter lives in the basement with her 2 kids, she's a single mom, and one of the things I did when she was pregnant with the second one is I got a long piece of wood, a 9-foot piece of wood, like a 2-inch by 1 inch thick, just like a long, I don't know, like a bar of wood. And then I bought 10 hooks and I drilled the hooks into the bar of wood. Then you find the studs on the wall and you drill the wood into the studs. That's how I did it upstairs also when the kids were little. And we still have the ones upstairs. And I put that there. I said, hang everything. Like this is the breast pump bag, this is the diaper bag. And I went down there in a couple of weeks. She wasn't using it. And then all of a sudden one day I went down and every single hook had like all this stuff on it. Like hooks are great. Just drill it into the wall. Who cares? Just drill it direct and drill it into a stud. Because I mean, these are boys. They're going to pull on that. Yeah, I've got hooks everywhere. Who cares? This is the thing. You're using command hooks. I just want to call all this out. I've lived in the same house for 30 years. We're not going anywhere. And when we move, we're going to have to paint it anyway. And you think the new people aren't going to want hooks? I mean, like, just drill it into the wall.
You can patch a hole. It's
Yeah,
totally fine.
drill it in.
What a fun conversation. This has been so great. We always like to end every episode with a lightning round. And so,
Okay.
yes, Lisa, want to hear paper clutter or digital clutter? Which one causes more stress for you?
For me, it's digital clutter because if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. So I turn it into paper clutter and then I could tackle it.
Okay. In your morning, are you the type that drinks coffee first and then looks at your checklist, or checklist, then coffee?
I don't have a checklist.
I knew it. I knew it. I'm like,
So on Sunday, when I do my Sunday planning, I make like a weekly plan and
yeah,
everything that needs to get done actually gets put on the calendar. So in that case, yes, I do look at my calendar the night before and set timers on my phone so I know it. So I do coffee because I don't have to think about it because the timers are just going to go off.
that's so cool. So, and timers sometimes for me is when I need to leave for the next appointment. Like, it's
Mm.
not a timer for me to be like, okay, it's time to go do this. It's literally like, leave now to go to this appointment. And that has been so helpful. What
Yeah, I
is
have a
one?
timer. I have a
Yes.
timer to get my grandson dressed, and then a 10-minute later timer. Now we're supposed to get in the car, and then 5 minutes before every meeting so I can get water and go to the bathroom.
Smart. 5-minute
Yeah.
warning. I love it. What is one small habit that has made a huge and noticeable difference in your life?
Other than the Sunday basket?
Right.
I would say it is really looking at my calendar the night before and setting those timers. I mean,
Okay.
that is just because when you look at things the night before, sometimes you're like, "Oh, shoot, I need to put something in the car. I need to prep for that meeting." Like, it gives you a little bit of a heads up on things that maybe you weren't totally ready for.
Do you set a reminder for you to check your calendar the night before so you don't forget?
I don't because it's a habit
Yeah.
now, but I do still set a timer to take my vitamins every night at 7 o'clock, and I've been doing that for 30 years. So it's just to take my vitamins and stop drinking water. So I don't get up 8,000 times in the middle of the night. And then, of course, at 7:15, I'm like, I'm so thirsty. I'm so thirsty. I'm going to die. I'm going to die.
Our brains are a funky, funky thing.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, last question. What is one thing that you wish working moms would stop feeling so guilty about?
Taking time for you.
Ah,
Taking time for you. So the whole book, Escaping Quicksand, is how you reinsert yourself into your family. We are so good, especially if you have children. So these are moms. You have to take care of a newborn. You have to sacrifice for a newborn. But that creeps, right? That creeps into everything. And at some point, you have to start taking time for yourself, which I didn't do until my kids were grown and out of the house, and I still got pushed back. They're like, why do you have to go to a meeting? Why do you have to work late? Because why not? Like, I'm not tucking you into bed. Like, because I want to grow my company. I don't know. I don't have to justify this to you. So take time for you. Like, you are allowed to have goals. Like, I pay for Pilates. You know what else I've paid for? Basketball lessons and piano lessons. And do I have a professional pianist or basketball player? No, I do not. So why can't I also have Pilates? Like, you are one of the people in the household that's allowed to have all the things that you provide for everyone else.
that's so good. Oh, thank you for sharing, Lisa. So many great thoughts and like honestly like guideposts and boundaries for us to implement. If you are at all interested, visit organized365.com. We'll put the links to her book, to the Sunday basket, to all of these great ways to connect with her as well. But Lisa, thank you for pouring into women in ways that we aren't always able to pour into ourselves.
Thank you so much for having me.
Be sure to check out organized365.com. And thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Working Moms Redefined podcast. Thank you for listening to the Working Moms Redefined podcast. It is not lost on me that you chose to spend time together. Thank you. Let's connect outside of this space on socials. We'd love for you to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest. We've got it all to connect with you. If you feel as if someone in your life could be impacted by this message, feel free to share it. That is the biggest compliment. As we part ways together, remember, you can do hard things.